Tree in the Trail, chapters 10, 11, and 12. Wheels turn on the Santa Fe Trail. When mountain men returned to the Mississippi River towns, people listened to the tale of their adventures. Those Spaniards at Santa Fe, reported one veteran, have more gold and silver than a dog's great fleece, but no place to spend it. All their fancy store things come clear from old Mexico over mountain trails bad enough to break a snake's back. The goods get busted, arrive months late, and cost 10 times their worth. In 100 years, off and on, Frenchmen had peddled doodads to New Mexico for plenty of profit. No big mountain barred their way across the plains, but they could only use pack horses. Now wagons could roll west to Santa Fe like buckshot across a cabin floor. Americans could sell wagon loads of goods cheaper than Spanish merchants from Mexico and still get plenty rich. Such talk set men to thinking. Soon steamboats with New England cargoes plowed the Mississippi to St. Louis. Later they chugged further west up the Missouri River, unloading along the shores. Storehouses sprang up to shelter the goods. Towns sprang up around the storehouses. Then covered wagons, packed with their cargoes, rolled westward on the trail to Santa Fe. When the first wagons neared the tree in the trail, an Indian boy called from a butte, "Father, I see a great white animal crawling." They are not animals, though animals pulled them, and the man bellowed. They are huge cloth-covered boxes, and they roll on spinning shields. In a dream vision I saw others like them, stopping at the hill. When they went away, a strange thing happened. The medicine tree was leading them along the ancient Buffalo Trail. Chapter 11. Jed and Buck. Buck Smith, son of a mountain man, had grown up in Missouri forests. From his dead father he inherited Old Martha, Kentucky flintlock rifle, a sound knowledge of woodcraft, and many tales of the plains and mountains. Jed Simpson, from an Ohio farm, was not a woodsman like Buck, but he could build almost anything in wood or iron and knew more about horses, oxen, and wagons than most men. These two young fellows had joined a caravan for their first and almost their last trip on the Santa Fe Trail. Their wagon train had camped at Cow Creek, miles east of the tree in the trail. Fresh meat was needed, so 20 hunters, Jed and Buck included, rode towards a huge buffalo herd. They approached through deep ravines, unseen by the buffalo. When they spurred their horses to the open plain, the shaggy animals promptly stampeded. In the confusion, Jed Simpson found himself alone, surrounded by 10,000 madly running beasts. His pony galloped beside a fat buffalo. Jed's rifle dropped it beneath thundering hooves. While Jed was reloading at breakneck speed, a thong broke, and his powder horn was lost. His shooting was over. He could only hang on, hoping his racing mount would not stumble and fall. After what seemed hours, he worked his horse towards the end of the charging herd. The last buffalo streamed past him. The thunder of hooves died to a murmur, and the dust rolled away. Jed dismounted from his weary pony, his mind still rocked with bouncing bodies, and his ears roared. Wondering where he was and where the caravan might be, he saw a distant horseman. Was it an Indian? Jed grasped for his rifle, then realized it was useless. Except for a heavy hunting knife, he was unarmed. There's his musket, Old Martha. That'd be a pretty scary ride, being with all those buffalo like that. Chapter 12, The Race for Life. And here's an example of some of the different arrowheads and feathers that they used to make their arrows. Jed was relieved when the horseman turned out to be Buck Smith. "What you aiming to do? Chase the woolly cows plumbed Santa Fe?" exploded Buck, reining in his sweaty mount. "Shoot one, then lost my powder horn," explained Jed lamely. "Bet I chased you 10 miles," Buck grunted. What's that over yonder? Looks like the rest of our party galloping this way. Nope, by gum, it's Injuns. Here, take my powder horn and load as you ride. But if you drop that horn, I'll scalp you my own self. The two raced west at top speed. Jed stood up in his stirrups, ramming powder and ball down at the rifle barrel. Them Arapahoes gaining on us, howled Buck over his shoulder. Ride for that hill, 2 buttes and a tree. We'll fight 'em from that cover if we get there. In 5 more minutes, the two reached the foot of the hill. The Indians lashed their horses. They made frantic efforts to come within bowshot, but their arrows zipped to earth short of their mark. Made it, gasped Buck, leaping from his shadow. Skin yourself off that nag and up a rock pile, and take the other. Lie flat as a turtle on top of the butte and aim true when you shoot. But the Indians, yelled Jed. They've stopped. Look at 'em. What? Well, that's a buzzard's uncle. If that ain't laughing and waving goodbye, like we was playing a game. Can reach the goal or something. Hey, you snake-eyed paint faces, come and fight like men. We'll carve out your gizzards. We'll... Oh, don't urge 'em so much, panted Jed, leaning against the tree. If they feel like leaving, don't press them to stay. As for myself, I'm mighty happy with just the 2 of us here. Tree in the Trail, chapters 10, 11, and 12.